Good morning. I will start my speech off today by telling you what it is about, explicitly and right from the start, so that you do not have to go looking around for meaning, putting your nose in places it doesn't belong. My speech is about playfulness and adventure. Trinity teachers have probably told you that in your essays, you're supposed to show your audience what you were talking about, and not tell your audience what you were talking about. But Trinity teachers have probably also told you that the slope of a secant line to a curve approaches the slope of a tangent line as the distance it is measured over approaches an infinitesimally small quantity. Lies. Absolute lies. Anyway, playfulness and adventure. Now, a speech is a hard place to talk about those things, as they are nearly impossible to capture with words and the occasional exaggerated hand gesture, but I will attempt to. I've intentionally used the words playfulness and adventure for a reason. They are very simple. They speak for themselves and to a wide audience. Perhaps they remind you of Dora the Explorer. Perhaps they don't. It's fine, I won't take it personally. Indeed, I even thought about using other words. Odyssey would have been a good one. Maybe even Nequia. That would have been wild. At Trinity, it sometimes seems that words like that can take you a long way. But I chose not to, because so often we use complex words to express the most simple of ideas, when we have perfectly good words that we're afraid to use out of fear of seeming common and simple to fit into an academic setting. I don't want to seem like I'm against academia. In fact, some of my best ideas in the past 4 years have come from that vein. In some ways, this speech did. I first started to actively think about adventures when I was reading Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre this summer. Now, there are definitely a lot of good places to read French existentialism. Dimly lit cafes, park benches in cemeteries, anywhere in Denmark. But a beautiful late summer day on the shores of Lake Glimmerglass in Cooperstown, New York, surrounded by flowers and the sound of a brass band, is not one of them. I found this idyllic setting at direct odds with what I set out to do, and, as much as I may try, I found it impossible to agree with anything that the existentialist author said. There is one point in the book where the main character, Antoine Roquentin, is talking about the adventures he has had. He said that although some people would consider that he had had many adventures in his life, he had traveled all over the world, he never felt as if he were having true adventures. In fact, he says that it is impossible to ever have a true adventure. Because in order to have an adventure, you would have to realize that you were having an adventure. And as soon as you realized you were having one, it would cease to be an adventure. Or something like that. It was a beautiful summer day, and paradoxes really weren't working out for me at the time. But it did make me think. I've always liked to have fun, and I've always liked to tell stories. So it occurred to me that I must have been having adventures all along, and never even noticed it. But now I had a chance, a moment of free time, to think about what made those adventures. And I realized I could maximize my adventure time. This was very exciting. I could do this by doing exactly the opposite of what Antoine Roquentin was suggesting. I could think about how and search out adventures every day. I could actively work to make my everyday into an adventure. Now, this was an ambitious goal, but if I may say so myself, I am an ambitious person. So I set out to do a different and unique adventure each and every day. This is where humor and playfulness come in, because adventure without humor is nothing. I've seen so many people use the phrase carpe diem, seize the day, to do frankly stupid things. No, this speech is not about that. It is about the absurd, the unusual, and the unexpected. This was all very well, but when I got back to New York City, I had to figure out how I could possibly take my ideas and turn them into actions. I was at a complete loss for what to do, so I sat down wrote some friends some letters, and walked out to the post office to go mail them, hoping to think of something, anything, on my way over, since for some reason, most quick thinking occurs when you are walking. Well, I didn't think of anything, but as I walked back from the post office, I passed by my local fire station. Curious, I looked inside and saw a whole fleet of brand new, bright red fire motorcycles. I was unsure of what a fire department would use motorcycles for. Not very useful at putting out fires, and they already had fire trucks. So I decided to go inside and find out for myself. Fire stations are interesting places. It's odd, we are introduced to them in our early years, the most prominent stages of our development, but then we go on to forget them and take them for granted. Along with most people in this audience, I was brought up with a sort of religious reverence for fire stations, fire trucks, and firefighters. But as I moved past those integral early phases of my cognitive development, I forgot them all. And then, before the school year started, I revisited them. These municipal workers who had somehow found themselves lodged in the deep recesses of my mind, now somehow came back to me. I went in and started talking to one of the firefighters about the motorcycles. Although I could never get a solid answer as to why they really needed them, I got to talk to people I wouldn't normally have, and see things I wouldn't normally have seen. Plus, I got to sit on a fire motorcycle. How cool is that?